Most people think personal growth feels exciting, but there's a part of you that will fight it every step of the way. If you do not understand why, you will spend years holding yourself back without even realizing it. Growth is like arguing with an old identity. You know, the version of yourself that refuses to leave. I see, you change your habits, you change your thinking, you started moving toward a different life. But right when things began to shift, something inside of you whispered, slow down. Stay where you are. Don't get ahead of yourself. Now, most people would call that fear. Sometimes they call it overthinking too. But it's not just fear. It's the old version of you trying to stay in the fight, trying to stay alive. Today, we're going to talk about why that happens and how to stop letting it run your life. My name is Shatica. If you're new here, you can call me T. But my name means something. Sha, S-H-A, means light. Tika, T-I-C-A, means strength. Light, strength, both. Now I want you to sit with that name for a second. Because before I ever opened my mouth, before anyone heard my story or lived experiences or managed to see what I've built, people, they make a decision about who I am based on that name. I've had people say to me, "You are not what I expected." And I knew exactly right then and there what they expected. They heard the name Shatica and they assumed A, that it had no meaning, B, that I was uneducated, C, that I was less than. What they could not see from the outside was the light and the strength that I carried. I possessed that inside of me. And for a long time, I let other people's assumptions about my name shrink what it actually meant. That's what this channel is about. Not just personal growth, not just mindset shifts. It's about reclaiming your identity, who you actually are underneath everything that's been projected onto you before you were even old enough to decide for yourself. See, the part that no one tells you is simple. When they talk about old identities, some of them were built by you. Some of them were built for you. And to boot, it was done without your permission, without your input, without any consideration of who you actually were or who you were capable of becoming. For example, someone told you you were ugly, not once, enough times that you started to believe it. So now when you walk into these rooms or these different spaces, you're already negotiating your worth before anyone has even spoken to you. Somebody told you, "Hey, you're a worker." And it wasn't because you lacked intelligence. It wasn't because you didn't have a vision of your own, but because nobody in your environment ever showed you there was something beyond working for someone else's dream. So you never reached up and grabbed your own. Somebody taught you to give respect to everyone. That sounds so noble. Which sounds right. But no one taught you to require it back. So you gave, and you gave. You called it virtue? Well, people walked all over you. And you smiled through it. You smile through it because that is what you were taught strength look like. You're not alone. And then somebody had something to say about your body. You're too big, you're too small, you're too much, you're not enough. From every direction, someone's had an opinion about who you were and what you deserved and how far you should go in life. So eventually, you stop asking about your own thoughts. You started managing everyone else's comfort instead. Now, to some, that might sound like low self-esteem, but it's not. It's conditioning. Conditioning is just a belief repeated so many times, it becomes the standard. You start to feel like it's the truth. The truth is you were never just allowed to be you until today. Not fully, not freely, not without someone having something to say about it. And that is the deepest ghost of all. Not the identity you chose, the identity that was chosen for you. So when I finally decided to stand at the edge of a real decision, the kind that moves you out of the life everyone recognizes and into something unfamiliar, oh, you know I heard a voice. It was my own. But it did not sound like the person I was becoming. It sounded like every person who had ever told me who Shatica was supposed to be. The version of me that learned to survive, the version that learned to stay quiet and humble, the version that learned not to want too much because wanting too much would make people uncomfortable. That voice said, slow down. Hey sis, you're getting ahead of yourself. Who do you think you are? And for a second, it almost worked. It did. Not because the voice was right, because it was familiar. That is when I realized something. Growth is not just about learning something new. Real personal growth is about identity transition. It is about outgrowing a version of yourself that once kept you safe, but is now keeping you small. And here's the part, again, people don't prepare you for. People talk about learning all the time. They talk about new habits, new routines, new mindsets, new strategies. But they don't talk about unlearning these habits. And unlearning is harder, way harder than learning. Because learning adds something new to the perspective, right? Unlearning asks you to remove something that you've been living inside of. Like, it's lived inside of you too, and it feels like it belongs there. So unlearning is asking, who told you that you were ugly? And did that actually have the authority to define you? Unlearning is realizing you became a worker not because that was what you expected to be, because that was all you knew. That was everything they showed you around you. That was the only option. You became the product of your own environment, but that was never your potential. Unlearning is recognizing that the respect you give so freely is not weakness. That was your survival skill. You learned to make people comfortable so they would not hurt you. But you're not in that season anymore. You're allowed to require what you give. This is not about becoming someone new. It's about removing everything that was never you. So the real version of you can finally breathe. Yeah, that's it. There is something people rarely explain when they talk about personal development. You can change your habits. You can change your environment. You can change all the people around you and still feel like something inside you is fighting every step forward. That's self-sabotage. That's what people call it. But sometimes it's something deeper. Sometimes it's an old identity refusing to retire and let go. That identity helped you survive difficult rooms before. It helped you tolerate environments that were never designed for your expansion. It helped you stay small enough to stay accepted. But guess what? Guess what? Seasons change. And if you're watching this channel, the chances are your season has changed too. The problem is, the old version of you is still trying to run the show. And if you feel like you're in the middle of an identity shift, type the word growing in the comments. I want to see how many people are actually going through this right now. Now let's talk about 3 signs. The first sign, you pull back right before progress. Right when things begin working, you hesitate, you slow down, you press pause, you create distance from the thing you're asked for. That is your old identity hitting the ceiling of what it believes that you deserve. Second, you shrink in rooms you worked hard to enter. I did that too. You walk into a new opportunity and suddenly you feel like a fraud. Like someone is going to discover you don't belong there. That feeling has very little to do with your ability, because I see you, sis. I see you, bro. It has everything to do with your identity not catching up to the growth that you're experiencing. Third, you hear that old voice negotiating your future. Don't get ahead of yourself. Don't expect too much. Stay where you understand the rules. Look, gratitude, it matters. But gratitude was never meant to be the end all of the be all. That voice is not wisdom. That voice is familiarity. And familiarity will keep you comfortable in a life you have already outgrown for so long. My phone's about to die, so let's make it quick. So what do you do with all of this? What do you do with all of this information? There's 2 things. First, you have to name the old belief. Second, open up your notes app. Write down one belief you are still carrying that belongs to that old version of you. Maybe it says, people like me do not live that kind of life. I'll tell you first, you deserve all that and more. I should not push too far. I should be grateful for what I have. Write it down. Write it down. Write it down. Because the moment a belief becomes visible, you are no longer trapped inside it. Second, write the new sentence. Finish this line. The version of me I am becoming is someone who is fill in that blank. Are you someone who speaks up? Are you someone who chooses peace? Are you someone who has stopped shrinking to make others comfortable? Someone who requires the respect they give. Is that you? Read that sentence every day. Because repetition built the old beliefs. And repetition will build the new ones too. Here's the truth that I want you to carry out of this video with you moving forward today. The old version of you, it wasn't a mistake. Every survival skill you developed, it got you here. But here is not where you are staying. You are not just a name someone called you when they were too small to see your light. You are not the body someone criticized when they were too insecure to celebrate yours. You are not the worker who was never shown the door to their own potential. You're not the person who gives everything and asks for nothing. You're none of that. Not anymore. The old version of you may not go quietly, but the new version of you is not going anywhere. Again, my name is Shatica, light, strength, both. And I will see you in the next video.